Hi, today I'm going to show you how to fill out Form 1040. In this video, we will begin to learn how to fill out Form 1040 and go until line 9. In the videos that follow this one, we will continue to fill out Form 1040 until its completion. We're going to start at the top of the tax return, which is filing status. There are 5 filing statuses: single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, and qualifying surviving spouse. A taxpayer's filing status is single if, on the last day of the year, the taxpayer is unmarried or legally separated from their spouse, or if they do not qualify for any other filing status. For the married filing statuses, an individual is considered married if they are married and living together with their spouse, or living together in a common law marriage. They are living apart but not legally separated under a decree of divorce, or they are considered separated due to the fact that their divorce decree is not yet finalized. Next is head of household. A taxpayer can be head of household if the taxpayer is unmarried or are considered unmarried by year end and they paid more than half of the expenses for maintaining a household, or they provided more than 50% of support for a qualifying child or qualifying relative, and 2, except for a parent, lived with them for more than half the year. The last status is qualifying surviving spouse with a dependent child. This filing status allows one to retain the benefits of the filing jointly status for 2 years after their spouse's death. To qualify, the taxpayer must have a dependent child, and in the year of death, the surviving taxpayer can then use the married filing jointly as the filing status for that year if the surviving spouse would otherwise qualify to use that status. Let's review what a dependent qualifies as. We will be looking in this video at an example of the taxpayer named Emily Green. She's a 39-year-old 5th grade teacher who is considered unmarried by year end. She has 2 children who lived with her for the entire tax year and paid more than half of the expenses for maintaining a household. Based on this information here, take a moment to think about which filing status to use for Emily. If you thought that we should use the head of household, you are correct. We're going to check off that filing status and continue along. The next parts are just entering her name, putting in her first, last name, and home address. After filling in her information, we get up to a question asking, at any time during 2022, did you receive or sell, gift, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset? This is a newer question added in 2020 when the IRS decided that virtual currency is considered investment property and must be accounted for in the tax return just like any other sale or investment. But with the given information, Emily Green did not, so we're going to check off no. The next part is filling in her dependent information. Looking at her information, we see that her children are 7 years old and 14 years old, so they qualify for the child tax credit. If you don't know who qualifies, that's okay, because the credit will be discussed later in the tax credits video. Now we can get started with the actual line items. On line 1, wages, salaries, and tips are entered. Looking at Emily's W-2, she has W-2 income of $36,500 on line 1 of her W-2. She does not have any household employment income. So that amount on her W-2 income is what is entered here on line 1 of Form 1040. Reviewing from the reading assignment, some other things that would be entered here are tip income, not reported on line 1A, Medicare waiver payments, not reported on Form W-2, taxable dependent care benefits from Form 24401, line 26, and other items which can be reviewed on that Form 1040. Now moving on, we get to line 2A and 2B, tax-exempt interest and taxable interest. To review, on line 2A, tax-exempt interest is reported. Some examples of tax-exempt interest include municipal bond interest, or interest from individual retirement arrangements. Taxable interest includes interest earned from bank and credit union accounts, savings, or other bank deposits, interest paid on money lent to another individual, interest earned on U.S. savings bonds, or interest received on tax refunds. Remember that regardless of the dollar amount and regardless of whether or not the taxpayer receives a 1099 INT disclosing the interest must be reported in the year received on line 2B of Form 1040. From the information provided, we see that Emily has $3,480 of interest earned from a savings account with the People's Bank, and so that will be entered on line 2B. Because she received more than $1,500 in taxable income, she must attach Schedule B. On line 1 of Schedule B, the amounts of taxable interest income are entered. On line 2, the amounts on line 1 are added up. Line 3 asks if a taxpayer cashed Series EE or I U.S. savings bonds issued after 1989 and paid qualifying higher education expenses for themselves, their spouse, or their dependents. If they did, they may be able to exclude part or all of the interest on those bonds. Emily Green did not, so the amount on this line is 0 for her. The last line asks to subtract line 3 from line 2. The total amount of $3,480 on line 4 is entered on line 2B of Form 1040, and Schedule B is attached. Now on to line 3A, where ordinary and qualified dividends are entered. The most common dividends are the distribution of profit that a corporation pays to its shareholders. Ordinary dividends are corporate distributions in the form of cash. We go back to Schedule B and we find the next section is for reporting ordinary dividends. This amount is reported on line 5 of Schedule B. Emily received a Form 1099 DIV from Farmers First INC showing that she received $1,700 of ordinary dividends. Line 6 is the total that is reported on line 5, and if it's over $1,500, you must complete Part 3. She must complete Part 3 because she's over that total amount, and her ordinary dividends are $1,700. Once this is done, she can enter the amount of $1,700 onto line 3B of Form 1040. So moving on to the next line, where IRA taxable distributions are entered. Whether a distribution is taxable or not taxable depends on the type of IRA, the age of the account owner, and the use of the proceeds. For example, distributions from a traditional IRA are fully taxable. Emily does not have any distributions from an IRA, so we're going to go on to line 6. On line 6, Social Security benefits are entered. Social Security benefits include monthly retirement, survivor, and disability benefits. Emily does not have any Social Security benefits, so we're going to go on to line 7, which is for capital gains and losses. If the taxpayer sold a capital asset, such as a stock or bond, they must complete and attach Schedule D, capital gains and losses. Emily did sell a capital asset during the tax year. Emily sold some stock that she purchased 3 years ago on July 25th, 2019. She purchased 100 shares YYZ stock for $2,000. She sold 50 shares on July 10th during the tax year for a total of $5,500 after selling expenses were deducted. Many transactions will require that IRS Form 8949 is completed before lines 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, or 10 of Schedule D is completed. Whenever an individual sells a capital asset held for personal use at a gain, they need to calculate how much money they gained and report it on Schedule D. And depending on their situation, also IRS Form 8949. IRS Form 8949 is used to report either the sale or exchange of a capital asset not reported on another form or schedule, or gains from involuntary conversions of capital assets not held for business or profit, or of non-business bad debts. Schedule D, Form 1040, is used to report the overall gain or loss from transactions reported on IRS Form 8949, or capital gain distributions not directly reported on line 7 of Form 1040. An individual does not have to file IRS Form 8949 or Schedule D if both of the following apply. There are no capital losses, and the only capital gains are capital gain distributions from Form 1099 DIV Box 2A, or none of the Form 1099 DIV have an amount shown in Box 2B, Box 2C, or Box 2D. Emily will need to complete Form 8949 before she is able to complete Schedule D. Pulling up Form 8949, we see she sold 50 shares and that portion was bought for $1,000. She made a profit of $5,500, so her net profit is $4,500. Going to Schedule D, we again see that $5,500 was entered for the sale price, $1,000 was entered for the cost of the stocks, then $1,000 was subtracted from that $5,500, giving us a total of $4,500. The final amount of $4,500 is entered on line 7 of Form 1040. Moving right along to line 8, where other income from Schedule 1, line 9 is entered. Schedule 1 is used for additional income and adjustments to income. Before we get started, let's review what each line is for. Line 1 is used to report taxable refunds, credits, or offsets of state and local income taxes. Line 2 is used to report alimony for divorce agreements entered into before December 31st, 2018. If entered into before then, the alimony is taxable and entered here. Line 3 is used to calculate business income or loss that is calculated using Schedule C. Line 3 is used to report other gains or losses if a taxpayer sold or exchanged assets used in their trade or business. Line 5 is used to report income from rental real estate, royalties, partnerships, S corporations, and trusts. This amount is derived from Schedule E, Supplemental Income and Loss. Line 6 is used to report farm income or loss. This is derived from Schedule F, Profit or Loss from Farming. Line 7 is used to report unemployment compensation. A taxpayer should receive a Form 1099-G showing in Box 1 the total unemployment compensation paid to them. Line 8 is used to report other income that is not reported elsewhere on the tax return. Some common other income is bankruptcy and cancellation of debt income, gambling, lottery and raffle winnings, or court awards and damages. Using the information we have, we are going to fill out Schedule 1 for Emily. For the tax year, she received $9,000 in alimony payments, and her divorce decree is dated September 9, 2017. So this means that her alimony is taxable because her divorce decree was before December 31st, 2018. $9,000 is entered on line 2. On Schedule 1, line 3, business income from Schedule C is attached. You will learn how to fill out Schedule C in the small business unit of the course. But for right now, we will take the amount of business income and enter it here on line 3. She had no other business gains or losses to enter on line 4. She did have rental income, and so we're going to need to fill out Schedule E. Before filling out Schedule E though, let's look at the remaining lines here. She had no farm income, no unemployment income for the year, and no other income. So we're going to go back to line 5 and finish filling out Schedule E, which is needed for line 5. Emily rented out her home for 17 days during winter vacation for $60 a night, making her rent received at $1,020. She had $60 of cleaning expenses, She had $75 of repair expenses for a faucet that was leaking when the renters left, and the utilities for the 17 days came out to around $105. This makes her total rent expenses to be $240. After subtracting her expenses from the rents received came out to $780. In addition to being used for rental expenses, Schedule E is also used to report royalty income. Royalties can be received from copyrights on literature, musical or artistic works, and similar property, or from patents or on inventions. Royalty income can also be received from oil, gas, and mineral properties, and this is the amount received when natural resources are extracted from a property. Royalties from copyrights, patents, and oil and gas and mineral properties are taxable as ordinary income. Emily does not have any royalty income, so we can go back to Schedule 1 and fill in line 5. We can then add lines 1 through 9 of Schedule 1, getting a total of $17,262, and enter it on line 10. The amount from line 10 of Schedule 1 is then entered on line 8 of Form 1040. Now going back to Form 1040, we can add lines 1Z, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7, and 8 of Form 1040, and we get $63,442 on line 9, which is her total income. So now we've filled out Form 1040 up to line 9. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video in which we'll go over the next line 10 of Form 1040, which is adjustments to gross income.